Okay. All right. So here is our official SIG operator meeting, January 17th. And we have a few things on the agenda today. I'll just kick it off. I wanted to start by doing just kind of an intro community question so we can get to know each other every time for anybody who's on the call. And then we have a couple different action items on the list. And then we'll ask for topics for the next call. And feel free, so just so everybody knows, we have all the agenda items and notes in a single doc. If you are watching this video and you want to get involved, you can go to the DoK Slack. There's a SIG operator channel on Slack, and the agenda and notes is pinned to the top of the channel, so it's always there. And we will be adding a GitHub page and some other places. This will be on the DoK website moving forward. We're kind of doing an update there, but just to do some housekeeping so everybody knows where things are at. And the recordings and everything from the calls are in that doc as well. So it's all in that one spot. So I just wanted to kick things off. I think the folks on this call know each other, and you all just met Hugh Lashbrook, who just joined Constantia recently, who will be part of DoK. I wanted to ask just a quick community fun question at the beginning of each of these calls. So I'm curious, what is a song you've been listening to or that you would recommend that you love? Let's start with Alvaro.
So I don't have like any particular specific music. I like listening to many different kinds of songs, so it's hard for me to pick one. But actually, let me do that. I want to pick one not because it's my favorite song or anything like that. It's also not because I love, messing with people's lives and the life of famous people, which I don't bother, not care about either. But it's actually super fun to listen to the latest Shakira song. It is in Spanish. And you need to be a little bit understanding her past relationship with a football player from Barcelona, Piqué. But man, it's brutal. I mean, like, she's going against him in such a way, it's quite imaginative, but also super direct, that, it's kind of fun. I'm sorry for both of them because it's a bit shameful, to be honest, make all these things public, but it's quite imaginative.
Wow. I'll have to check that one out. That's awesome. What about you, Jonathan? What is a song you recommend or something you've been listening to lately?
The latest one, it could be How I Could Kill a Man, Just Kill a Man, from Rage Against the Machine. I've been listening to that song for the last week a couple of times, so it's kind of nice. It's a good one. But yeah, I totally agree with Alvaro. That song from Tequila is really good.
Yeah, Rage Against the Machine is always good in my opinion. Hey, Jason, welcome. Nice to see you or see your name on the screen.
Thanks. It's good to be able to join. I'm on a train, so it's a little bit hectic, but at least I'm here.
No worries. I appreciate you joining. We were just starting the calls with a community fun question. I'll go to Hugh before I go to you, so you have time to think about it. But we're asking people, what's a song you've been listening to that you'd recommend or that you like? Hugh,
yeah. I still tend to listen to mostly music that I listened to when I was a teenager. It's a lot of punk and ska. That's my jam. And then all the music that my kids listen to, of course, because that's played a lot. There's a band called Five Man Frenzy that I love. They're a ska band from the US. They kind of broke up for like 10 years and got back together. And the song of theirs called Ugly Day that I love to dance to at our wedding, which is pretty cool. It's like a sort of swing ska sort of vibe. And it's super fun. And,
amazing.
Listen to that a lot. Yeah.
Awesome. Jason, what about you? What's a song you like or that you'd recommend?
So, I mean, kind of really stick to the stuff I grew up with, so turn of the century sort of rock and pop punk and things like that. I actually have a playlist that I'm going to stick in the chat. So
awesome.
It's a public one that I work with a few people. So
that's awesome. Thank you. We always love music recommendations. There's a music channel on the DoK Slack in case anybody doesn't know, and people post videos and things they're listening to there. In fact, we should put all of our recommendations there. I'll say mine too. So I just found this piano player named Chloe Flower, and she does, it's like classical piano with kind of electronica R&B different beats. And there's a song called Get What You Get that I've been listening to. I think it's pretty interesting how she kind of blends these two different styles. It's pretty awesome. Awesome, cool. Well, thanks everybody. So let's get into the agenda. We will start, Jonathan, with you. Just to kind of summarize some of this, we've been talking with the CNCF tag storage about a collaboration on a white paper. And I know, Jonathan, you've been talking, and Patrick, I think, raised their hands in one of the first meetings to participate in the collaboration with them. So Jonathan, you have an update for us?
Actually, yes, I do. Well, last meeting was last week, yeah. It was on Thursday, and we finally finished the document about what are we going to put on this white paper. We finally, the decision was made about just going with the database operators and pick up probably some examples or ideas. And we will start from there because there's no one, there's only database people right now. So we will start with that, even if we talk about doing all the operator stuff. So Patrick, it was Patrick? No, I don't remember the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Patrick. The one that said that he was going to start the document. So we will start probably this week, start reading that and putting all the ideas on that document. And yeah, we will need some help from our community for sure, because there's a lot of things related to storage that we need to manage, and well, the tests and everything, performance, and define some topics on it. We define it a lot, but we need to still working because there's a lot of it. We realize that there's a lot of topics we need to handle in that white paper, and will be a lot of work. But yeah, the work on that will start this week, next week.
Okay.
That's probably the most of it, because there was a lot of people on PTO, so it was just a couple of us working. And last meeting was last week, and there were a lot of people there now. Okay. But yeah, that's basically the update on my side.
Is there, so it sounds like the Patrick is working on a doc that it's focused on database operators right now. And you want help.
It's more than the database operator, more storage side, but that will take, like, we need to define more stuff on it, but it will be more recommendations on operators and how to manage the storage. For example, the PVC templates, and more cloud native stuff, more Kubernetes native stuff than specifically database operators. The thing is that in the database operator, we can use it as example because there's 3 people there that works with database operators. So we have more experience on that side. That's the point. That is more related to storage, pure storage.
Okay.
And benchmarking of that storage.
And is there, so it sounds like Patrick is working on an outline for next week. Is there a timeline that you all are working within?
No, we haven't defined a timeline yet, but probably that will go on the next meeting for sure, because we need to define a timeline.
Okay.
That's really required. Yeah.
Okay.
And basically that we will have more. We will require more staff, and we will need more help. But probably in the next couple of meetings, we will realize what kind of things we will need.
Okay, got it. And so it sounds like that in probably the next meeting, we'll have more concrete, some kind of outline and some specifics
It was
about
Alex.
how to participate.
Alex Chico, the one that will start the document.
Oh, Alex will. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm reading the notes.
Okay, so sounds good. And by the way, I'm taking notes in the doc. If you need access to it, just let me know. I'll give you access to it to add notes. Okay, great. Does anybody else have questions about that white paper or the collaboration? All right, if nothing else, then Alvaro, it's over to you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I was able to read through the notes from the latest meetings, and there were some questions. I think I'm gonna answer them, plus add some additional content and more perspective. Yeah, if that's okay, I built a simple small presentation so that we can I can share the screen and go over it, and I think that will give us some perspective on what is the proposal.
Yeah.
6 slides. Okay, thank you. Let me open it up and share the screen. Yeah, I'm full screen, so just confirm if you can see it well. All right, thank you. So the official name, I call this project PLFM or POFM or however you want to pronounce that, but we can name it anyway. It doesn't really matter. So what is this feature matrix? My idea behind this project is, well, first of all, let's describe what it is, then we'll come into why we're doing this or why I propose to do this, etc. So first of all, it is a matrix of features. So it's a list of features, shaped on a table, kind of, right? Where you can see whether a given operator supports a given Postgres feature. Like, for example, synchronous replication, right? That's a feature. And then we want to know in a clear, unique way whether a given operator does support or do not support this capability, right? The features are classified by or by categories, by features, by categories, so they can be more easily readable. And so there's categories speaking about general characteristics, about high availability and replication, about backups, about observability, you name it. There's like a dozen categories, more or less. They're also classified by core, non-core features. The idea here is to also provide a way to create a summarized version of this table. So essentially, I'm jumping over some slides, but right now the version that I have has 94 features. So this is like a gigantic table, which is really cool in my opinion, because it gives you a lot of information about the way you can find information about an operator, but that might be overwhelming. And at some point you may want to show the user which are the main characteristics that you want to see. So a reduced version of those. It's a subset, strictly speaking. It's not a summarized version, it's a subset of those. So I identify which I consider from a Postgres perspective more important than others. But more importantly, this feature matrix has two sides, right? Two faces. One for the users, which is the end result, is seeing this matrix, but is also good for or has another face, another point of view, which is for the vendors. The vendors that create the operators can submit their compliance with this matrix. Or basically, my expectation is that each vendor, every time they produce a new version of their operator, or they have an operator where something changes significantly, they can submit a new version and say, well, now we support all these other features. And so things get updated. They're essentially version. Now, what is important is that the goal here is just not to provide a check mark and that's it, because sometimes also does not inform the user very well. If there's a feature that says, support sending logs to external sources, what does it strictly mean? Way, or it means like, it's something, yeah.
It cut out for just a second there, Alvaro. Can you repeat that last?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. So what I was saying is that the idea is not to provide just by the vendor like check saying, yeah, we do support, because that may also be, depending on how you interpret things, supporting means that, yes, there is a very heavily manually involved work to do, but essentially you can end up doing it. Or we support it so well integrated, just click on a checkbox and it's done automatically for you, right? So a very direct, precise answer, which is either a Boolean value or a string or a CSV. Sometimes you need more than one value, multi-valued answer. But then you have a section to provide links to demonstrate that capabilities, to the links to your own documentation, etc. And then an additional comments field. In this comments field is more open, should be no marketing bullshit. And basically, or you're saying, this is going to be provided soon, or it's not provided yet, or we don't like to provide this because we believe this is an anti-pattern, or whatever it is the case, right? So more free form, but vendor bullshit free field. Now, why to do this? The first goal is to provide information for the users. I've seen many times users being confused about whether a given operator supports a given feature. It is a very simple thing, but it's not simple for the users to identify. They need to go to the vendor's documentation, browse through it. Things are specified differently. They are even named differently. They are present in different ways. It's not easy to understand. Not even yet alone to compare if you want to do that, but even to get informed about a given operator. And given that this is an important decision for the users, I believe that we as a community need to support them better and need to let them know it's a given capability or not, and if so, how. The second thing is to standardize on naming. Yeah, go ahead. I thought there was some question or comment.
No, I think you're good.
Okay, sorry. So the second goal is to standardize, because sometimes people call things differently. And then it's, I thought you supported this, but no, but yes, but, and so terminology is confusing, naming is hard, we know this, so let's just standardize on naming. And let's call a given feature with a single name, will everybody understand? And then users will be properly informed and will pick what they're looking for, right? Also, the goal is to prevent some kind of comparisons of operators that are not good for the users. And I've seen several of those already in the wild. It's probably not based on negligence, but of all these factors that documentation is hard to find, that is it's not partial sometimes, not complete, the naming is different, or it's just simple, not up to date, and users then trust those comparisons and lead to wrong conclusions. So again, this is a problem that I've seen already in the wild, and I think it's good to tackle. And last but definitely not least is to provide a vendor neutral mechanism to get this information. So even if this information, this feature matrix, and I expect this to happen, may eventually also be published, and I'll explain later what are the outcomes as part of the vendor's documentation. And I believe that's a great thing. It should also be standardized and according to a model that is, vendor neutral. Now, and this has been a request from DoK leadership team, which I found very interesting and very visionary, which is, okay, if this works well, why we don't extend it to other non-Postgres specific things? So I believe this is an effort that can be started with Postgres, that there's already something tangible that is Postgres specific, but then maybe we can extend this and make it into a framework, something like the DoK Landscape, except that this is much more detailed and probably requires a per technology version, but it can be generalized and it can be extended to support any other database or even stateful operators. And I think this is highly beneficial for all the reasons that I specified before. So also as part of the work that I've done in building this matrix effort, the feature matrix export, I have also identified an initial set of features that may not be Postgres specific. I call it PG independent or non-PG specific. So they could already be extracted. And those that are Postgres specific, is not hard to trace a parallel in other technologies, let's say MySQL or Cassandra, and many of them could apply. Yes, the naming may be different or some details may be different, but it could serve as a source of inspiration. So in other words, the Postgres independent features could be transposed directly to other technologies, and the Postgres specific, many of them may require some changes, some adaptation, but could be also transposed. So I think it lays a significant effort towards creating equivalent feature matrix for other technologies. I said that in principle it's limited for stateful operators. There's nothing preventing it for using for also stateless operators, which are there are less. First of all, this might not be the DoK job. Second, I see less of a value there because they're hard parties on the data part and the state part. So, but nothing prevents us from potentially doing that. So, where will this matrix leave? First of all, I would expect, or I would like to see this as hosted as DoK as a vendor neutral effort. So that it's a neutral home where everybody can trust, rely, reference, etc. Again, something like DoK Landscape, except at a more detailed level. In my opinion, should also have a Git repository where there would be three main components there. First is the matrix itself. It's a table version. Because then there's going to be a user's guide. The user's guide is nothing more than an augmented version of the matrix with a detailed description of every feature, so that for each of these 94 features as of today, you can read a paragraph, a couple of paragraphs explaining what it is, so that users have a very clear understanding of what that feature is. And then the vendor's guide. The vendor's guide is the specification on how to do a proper submission. Again, my expectations is that vendors of Postgres operators would embrace this idea. And for each significant version, we'll make a new submission. And this has to be something very clearly specified how to do that. So for every feature will be general guidelines, plus for every feature, a guide on how to submit the values there, so that we enforce that there's no marketing bullshit, there is clear, objective information provided there, etc. And then this could lead to a website hosted at DoK, a specific domain. Here's up to what you at DoK decide to, first of all, show the matrix itself in a more visually appealing representation, compared to the Git repo, which could be a markdown table, but something a little bit more fancy. Or this maybe user fields can be a tooltip or something like that. We can drill down, collapse, etc. And then to show and potentially search across all vendor submissions. So you can look for them, you can see details, and this is not preventing. Sorry, it's a little bit maybe not going to see the bottom of the screen, but then the idea is that vendors could also bring this matrix to their own documentation, their own website, and say that this is a standard matrix in compliance to this spec of DoK, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like stamp of this is compliant with this standard. And so I believe that's very good, because then users will be able to very easily locate the information they're looking for to get an informed decision on which operator they want to use, either by going to the DoK website or the Git repo if they want to do it, more programmatically, or to each vendor's documentation if this table is also going to be there, the matrix. How does it look like today? Well, today's not yet a markdown document on a Git repository. That is going to be my next step. But here you can get a glimpse on the main categories and features on whether they're considered a core feature or not. It's just all, and this is definitely not final. It's just an initial idea. But there's, as you can imagine, there's a lot of characteristics and work here. Just to give you some numbers, as of today, I have identified 94 features, out of which I consider core 37. This number is probably a little bit large. Maybe it needs to be brought down to something like 25 or something like that. Again, this is as a peak of which features are the most relevant that a user at a quicker glance may want to look at. And 46, so essentially more than half of them are generic, meaning that they could be used for non-Postgres feature matrix similar efforts. And obviously these numbers are subject to change. So what are the next steps? First of all, I need a little bit of guidance on where to publish this on the Git repo level. So what is going to be where is going to be the group ID, the artifact ID, sorry, the repository ID. And I created an empty one called Postgres operator feature matrix. I don't know. I can check it out, but it's something to decide. Then I'd like to propose a repo structure. It's pretty simple. There's a few, markdown documents. And then a directory struct for vendors to make their submissions. Submissions are expected to be a pull request to the repo following some guidance. And then once we have this in place, to commit the first proposal for the POFM, the Postgres Operator Feature Matrix, which I'm calling it V1 beta. Then write this description of every feature and the specification for vendors. Once we have this, I would like to ask some vendors to provide some sample submissions, so also to get feedback from them vendors, like, is this an easy process? Is this something that you can automate? Is it something that you like? Is something, and also add them to the repo as a sample. And finally, once we are done with this, once we have the full picture, everybody can understand what is this and can touch it. It's made tangible to open it up for requests for comments from the vendors mainly, and then call it 1.0. At some point we need to do this. I hope it won't take too long, because most of the effort, I would say, is already done. And once we are 1.0, then just open it up for real submissions from vendors and start publishing the website. Now, what is needed? A lot. First of all, to invite to this conversation every Postgres operator vendor to join this effort and to collaborate on it, because again, this is a vendor neutral work. Then maybe we need to create a dedicated Slack channel. I know there's one for this SIG, but maybe we need to have one subgroup just for this effort. Maybe not, maybe that's also fine with me. I believe we may not want to spam everybody with these details. Then to the request for comments and vote for a 1.0 final decision, and then start with the website construction, the DoK website construction. And then we can also even start the efforts for non-Postgres operators. And essentially, that's it. That's all what I wanted to share. I also have a tab here with the feature matrix if you want to check it out. Or I'm just now opening to questions, obviously. There was one question on the previous session related to whether this should be hosted at operatorhub.io. My opinion is that no, just because that is for the operator deployments themselves. And I think as of today, this is something for Postgres specific. So I believe it's a much better home, kind of a repository ID for the feature matrices, and then within it, maybe one for Postgres, one for other technologies that want to do this. But I also have nothing significantly against that. It's just that it's a repo that has its own rules for submissions. And I think we will need first to discuss a lot with them and open a collaboration mechanism. I think that's going to take longer effort. But other than that, I have nothing really against that. I just think it's a better home, a specific project for these feature matrices. So questions, comments, ideas, feedback, anything is more than welcome.
I'm curious, Jonathan and Jason, what your thoughts are in terms of the operator matrix project as a whole. When we were talking with Alvaro about it initially, I think he captured our comments in that he wanted to start with Postgres, and that makes sense. And our thought was, how can we extend it beyond Postgres to be any database operator or truly any stateful operator, as he said. I think that's a goal to kind of move toward. And I'm curious what your take is on, we look at it as this could be beneficial for end users who are evaluating operators. We hear this a lot in our surveys that people have challenges with understanding the quality, interoperability, just some of the kind of core features and how to compare them. So the idea of a comparison matrix is interesting to us based on what we hear from end users. I'm curious from your perspectives, do you think this would be valuable to the folks that you work with as well, industry at large? What are your key thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah, we talk about similar stuff on the tax storage stuff about defining some requirements for operators to be like that need to be followed on the white paper. So this kind of effort is actually also be useful for the white paper on the task storage. If we start defining some requirements for operators and related to storage, it will be great. So we can join effort with task storage. So in that line, I think it's good. It's a good idea. Now, the problem is, how is this going to be consumed by some machines, some like websites? Are we going to expose some API on the data on Kubernetes? Are we going to create like release files on GitHub so they can consume the JSON, CSV, or whatever file they can have or something like that? I think JSON is a good format for it, but just
yeah, my idea was exactly that. I wouldn't make it too complicated. It's not a big deal to create an API. I was just thinking of submissions being machine parsable format, some YAML, something like that, and have them hosted on a repo on a well-known location that can be made predictable, so that you could even set up parsers to automatically parse those things. Open to all the mechanisms also, but the idea is absolutely that the users must see the matrix in a beautiful way on either the vendor neutral DoK website or each own vendor's website, but there should be also a way to consume it automatically by machines, and so you can manipulate that and do whatever you want with it.
Okay, so it makes sense to publish these kind of files on GitHub as a release file with the version.
Yeah, could be that. Yes, absolutely.
That's nice. We can provide that link on the task storage if we follow. But probably the idea will be, okay, starting with PostgreSQL operators, it could be a good idea, but I think that we can go more generic from the beginning, like focus on the storage stuff from bottom to top, and then we can split on databases, web servers and stuff like that, API servers. Probably start from the bottom rather than with Postgres would be a good idea. I know PostgreSQL requires, the PostgreSQL operator will require almost everything that related to storage in the operator world means. So it's a good start, but not saying that it's Postgres, but more storage. And then we can create some different features and define for the Postgres, MySQL or Cassandra, whatever. It could be a good start. Yeah.
Yeah. In my opinion, I would be extremely happy if this could serve other derivative efforts like this. So this is a capabilities matrix, right? Is explain what operators have built for their users. What you're talking is like differences are requirements for storage. For me, this is a derived effort, and I would be really, really happy if this could support and help that. For the capabilities part, in my opinion, I would like to get started with Postgres and do an end-to-end, working matrix and all the supporting stages that I have described with Postgres only, because in my experience, if we try to generalize now today for half a dozen databases, this is going to take half a year or 2 years instead of 3 months that I expect, whatever, some reasonable time to be built. And we will learn a lot from this experience. What definitely I plan to do, and that's why I mentioned one of the slides about the repository structure, is to build a repository structure from the beginning that could support one technology in the same repo. Maybe we want to create one repo per technology, maybe not. But at least to support this in case it would be needed. And then we can decide how to publish this, as you mentioned, releases in a way that could benefit other derived projects. I'm still not sure what the concept of our release would be, because the idea is that vendors may submit anytime they want. And some vendors may produce a version every 6 months, and versions may produce 3 versions per month and provide the appropriate submissions. But for example, we can do a time-based release, like let's say every month there's a new release. And what is packaged in that release, the latest versions of every vendor that's submitted. Idea. So yeah, I'm very happy to know also about other derived efforts and how we can benefit and support them too.
I wanted to make a comment about the question about whether to do it on Operator Hub, which is something that when we talked to Alvaro the first time, that was one of my first questions, which is this exists. Why don't we do it there? And I think the point you made about the structure of what you're proposing versus the structure of that site and the intention of that site are different. And so it would require a change in what they accept and how they present information. So it could be a long-term coming together. But I think it's fair and reasonable to do something on DoK GitHub, for example, and then we can, move it there if we need to, or somehow kind of merge the things if we want to go that direction in the future. I know that the Red Hat IBM folks do a lot, started that and maintain that. So that's a conversation we can bring them into this conversation as well. We've been talking with them about joining the SIG.
Yeah, with pleasure.
Awesome. And I saw Jason. I know Jason was on a train. He's been dropping. It sounded like he did have comments. So I'll ask him if he can just share them in the Slack channel after the call to get feedback from him. I'm curious what his take is too. And we'll ask others who were in the SIG as well who couldn't join today. Anything else? Any other questions you had, Jonathan, in terms of the matrix proposal? It sounds like it's interesting to you and it would be something you'd want to participate in if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I think we need the opinion from everyone else. Other folks may be also interested on this because it could be a step forward on defining how operators should behave related to storage and in Kubernetes. So yeah, it could be a huge step forward, this one, for sure. And yeah, I'm totally interested. No questions about it.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, so then next steps, I know, do you have a link to that slide deck, Alvaro, that we can add to the agenda? And then I'd love to send it around to people too, so they can see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a link. Yeah, I'll share it on Google Drive, or I'll just I'll share you the PDF, whatever you prefer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And with the matrix that you already have, would be great to read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, what I wanted to do is the matrix to just already dump it on a Git repository. It doesn't matter, we can later move the repository. But I would like to already receive comments and ideas on GitHub, because it's going to be much easier for collaboration to analyze in terms of pull requests.
Yeah, for sure. Just can you add it to the agenda so we can click after the call and start looking into?
Yeah. The slides, I'll just push them because it's simpler for me. And the other ones I'll do as soon as I land on my destination. So after this meeting, I'm running to the airport. So maybe today or tomorrow, tomorrow or the day after. As soon as I can, I'll do that. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. That's great. Anything else on that topic?
Not on my side.
Okay, very good. Well, that's great. I'm glad we got to have that discussion, Alvaro. We'll add additional notes into the agenda doc so that people can see. What about topics for next call? Anything else coming up? We'll keep these two topics on the agenda because they're ongoing. Is there anything else that you all want to add to the agenda for next call that you think would be good collaboration for the group? This is plenty to work on. Just want to make sure we're not missing anything. If so, you can always add, you both should have access to this doc now, so you can both add notes and agenda items as you wish. And Jonathan, can you share just an update on the Slack channel too with whenever you get the outline from Alex? It'd be good to see that and have people take a look at where that's.
Yeah, I will share it. As soon as I have it, I'll do it. I think we have a meeting next week, so awesome. We can go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Well, our next meeting is in 2 weeks. Certainly feel free to reach out on Slack in the meantime. And I think that's it for our meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon. Safe travels, Alvaro.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.